In July of 1935, Harold Chamberlain and Orville Moore were each awaiting trial in La Crosse for their crimes. They were being held in the La Crosse County Jail at 10th and Zeisler Streets, northeast of downtown on the southern edge of the La Crosse River Marsh. The building served as the county's third jail building from 1890 to 1965. It was a formidable building of stone and brick that gave the illusion of an impenetrable fortress. It was the first county jail to have separate areas for females and juveniles and featured a hospital ward as well.
Harold Chamberlain was a 19-year-old auto thief, originally from the La Crosse area. He had been in trouble with the law since the age of 12 when he was caught stealing cars. He was repeatedly sent to the state industrial school as punishment, but every time he was paroled, he would get arrested again. Upon turning 18, the year before the events of 1935, he began a 3-month sentence of hard labor in the La Crosse County Jail. This did not deter him from his life of crime, however. He was arrested in May of 1935 for stealing a modern laundry company vehicle. At the time of the events in July, Chamberlain was being held for trial in October. Orville Moore was a 35-year-old career criminal with a national reputation. In June earlier that year, Moore and a female accomplice had broken into a home on Caledonia Street after first impersonating a federal officer to scope it out. He was captured in Illinois and brought back to La Crosse by police captain Herman Rick. Moore and Chamberlain were inmates on the same cell block and evidently became very chummy, so much so that they had to be separated. Unknown to the jailers, their conversations had included plans to escape at a time in which both the sheriff and undersheriff were out of the building. On July 20th of 1935, while both men were out of their cells, Chamberlain attacked a fellow inmate, Dewey Meinertz, which was meant to be a diversion, while Moore attacked jailer Robert Garrow with a straight razor he had hidden in his sleeve. Garrow gave Moore his set of keys, which allowed Moore and Chamberlain to escape. Moore and Chamberlain locked Meinertz and Garrow into an office. Chamberlain knew where the guns were kept and forced his way into a locked compartment with a tire iron. He took a riot gun, a machine gun, and 2 revolvers. The commotion was heard by the jailer's gardener, Andrew Youngin, who called the police. Youngin, in a panic, asked the cops to come to the jail right away, but made no reference to a jailbreak. The call was answered by officers Clarence Koblitz, Aaron Sanford, Joseph McGrath, and Jack Fitzpatrick. These officers later reported that they presumed they were responding to prisoners fighting among themselves at the jail. Fortunately, Fitzpatrick was known as a great driver, and Koblitz grabbed a .30-30 rifle on the way out of the station. Once out of the jail, Moore and Chamberlain found an unoccupied cab and took off. Unfortunately for them, the cab had been fitted with a device that prevented cab employees from driving at excessive speed. With Chamberlain driving, they headed downtown. The police caught up with them at 2nd and La Crosse Streets, right around the entrance to the Oktoberfest grounds today. Once the police caught up with them, the fugitives fired on the squad car. The police did not return fire right away. Heading south on 2nd Street, Chamberlain suddenly pulled over. The officers assumed they were giving up, so Officer Sanford jumped from the squad car and approached the back of the cab. Suddenly, through the window, he saw a gun being raised. He dropped to the ground just as a shot blew out the back window of the cab and went flying over his head. From the squad car, Officer Koblitz fired his rifle as the cab started to pull away. Chamberlain was struck in the neck and back, killing him instantly. Moore frantically pulled his dead partner from behind the wheel and took off driving. The moving gunfight raced down 2nd Street toward the old wagon bridge that spanned the Mississippi River toward Minnesota. Moore, driving now, fired at police when he could. Officers Koblitz and Sanford returned fire while standing on the squad car's running boards, with Fitzpatrick at the wheel. The chase continued over the bridge onto Barren Island, with both vehicles dodging in and out of traffic. As the chase crossed the West Channel Bridge about a mile from the Crescent, Moore was hit. The cab swerved and struck 10 guardrails before coming to a stop. Moore and Chamberlain were now both dead.
This jailbreak event changed the way in which the police handle these kinds of calls. The communication or lack of communication between the caller, the dispatcher, and the police officers was duly noted by police and La Crosse citizens. While the police department had purchased bulletproof vests and an armored vehicle shortly before this incident, the responding officers had no idea of the severity of the situation that they would be facing. Instead, they chose to respond more quickly to the call, even though they could have brought better equipment. Conditions required Officer Clarence Koblitz to leave his partner, Detective Aaron Sanford, alone in the street. Because there wasn't any radio communication, Sanford wound up hitching a ride back to La Crosse to summon an ambulance and the coroner. Because the public expressed their concern for the situation that could have been much more serious in the end for both the police department and La Crosse citizens, Police Chief John Weber didn't waste any time requesting funds from the Common Council for the cost of a two-way radio system. Because the council representatives thought the cost was too high and the chances of needing such technology in a city the size of La Crosse were so low, it wasn't until July 1938, nearly 2 years later, that the police radio station was finally up and running. Squad cars were then equipped with radios so that the Central Police Station could communicate with officers and vice versa. Interestingly, the bullet-riddled stolen cab was exhibited for many years at the annual La Crosse County Interstate Fair, a silent reminder to attendees, especially the youth, about the dangers and seriousness of crime. It was as though the car was saying, "Don't let this happen to you."